In the frozen silence of northern Europe, where winter does not forgive mistakes, a man lay buried in snow. He did not move. He did not breathe visibly. He did not speak. Yet every soldier who entered that white wilderness felt his presence. They called him White Death. His real name was Simo Häyhä. Before the legend, before the fear, before entire Soviet units froze in terror, Simo Häyhä was just a quiet Finnish farmer. He was born in 1905 in a small village called WWII, close to Finland's eastern border. The land was harsh, the winters long, and survival demanded discipline. Simo grew up hunting in forests, where snow could reach a man's waist, and silence was louder than sound. From a young age, he learned patience, not as a skill, but as a way of life. Hunting was not sport for him, it was necessity. He learned how to track animals without leaving footprints, how to stay still for hours, and how to fire a single, perfect shot. Missing was not an option. Food depended on accuracy. By the time he joined the Finnish Civil Guard, Simo was already an expert marksman. He was small in stature, just over 5 feet tall, and spoke very little. Those who knew him described him as calm, modest, and almost invisible in social settings. No one, not even his commanders, imagined what he would become. Then, in November 1939, the world around him exploded. The Soviet Union invaded Finland, believing the war would be over in weeks. The Red Army had overwhelming numbers. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers, tanks, artillery, and aircraft. Finland had far fewer men, limited equipment, and almost no armor. On paper, Finland had no chance. But the Soviets underestimated one thing. The winter, temperatures dropped to minus 40 degrees Celsius. Engines froze. Weapons jammed. Soldiers unfamiliar with the terrain panicked in endless white forests. Finnish troops, dressed in white camouflage and moving on skis, became ghosts. Simo Häyhä was assigned as a sniper on the Kala front, one of the most brutal battle zones of the Winter War. There, the forest was dense, the snow deep, and death came quietly. Unlike most snipers, Simo refused to use a telescopic scope. Instead, he relied on iron sights. This decision would save his life. A scope required lifting the head higher, risking detection. Worse, sunlight could reflect off the glass, revealing a sniper's position. Iron sights kept Simo low, invisible, and deadly. He knew his rifle so well that he did not need magnification. Distance, wind, and elevation were calculations burned into his instinct. Before each mission, he packed snow tightly in front of his position so muzzle blasts would not create a visible puff. He even packed snow into his mouth to hide the steam of his breath. For hours, sometimes entire days, he lay motionless, his body becoming part of the frozen ground. The Soviets never saw him. They only saw men fall. One by one, entire units began to fear certain stretches of forest. Soldiers whispered warnings before advancing. Some refused to move forward at all. Others fired blindly into trees, hoping to hit an enemy they could not see. Every confirmed kill was recorded carefully by Finnish officers. The numbers climbed at a terrifying pace. In a single day, Simo Häyhä eliminated more than 20 enemy soldiers. Week after week, the count rose. 50, 100, 200. The Soviets began calling him Belaya Smrt, the White Death. It was not propaganda. It was fear. They sent counters known returned. They bombarded entire areas with artillery. Simo simply moved. They sent elite units trained to hunt snipers. They failed. The forest belonged to him. What made Simo different was not hatred. He did not celebrate kills. He did not boast. Later in life, when asked how he felt about the men he shot, he answered simply, "I did what I was told, as well as I could." For him, it was duty. Finland was his home. The war had come to his land, not the other way around. As Soviet casualties mounted, frustration turned into obsession. Orders were given. Eliminate the White Death at any cost. Artillery was aimed blindly at suspected locations. Entire hillsides were reduced to ice and smoke. Still, he survived until March 6, 1940. That morning Simo lay in position as usual. The cold was unbearable even for him. Suddenly, a Soviet soldier fired an explosive bullet, designed specifically to kill snipers. The round struck Simo's face. The impact shattered his jaw. His head was nearly torn apart. Finnish soldiers later said it looked as if half his face was gone. Blood froze instantly in the snow. Many believed he was dead. But Simo Häyhä did not die. Barely conscious, he was carried off the battlefield. He slipped into a coma that lasted days. Doctors did not expect him to survive, and while he lay unconscious, the war continued without the White Death. Finland would soon sign peace with the Soviet Union. The Winter War would end, but Simo Häyhä's story was not over. Not yet, because the man who entered that forest was not the same man who would leave it, and the true cost of becoming a legend was still waiting to be revealed. When Simo Häyhä opened his eyes, the war was already over. It was March 13th, 1940. Finland had signed a peace treaty with the Soviet Union, ending the Winter War after just 105 days of fighting. For most soldiers, the war ended with exhaustion, grief, and survival. For Simo Häyhä, it ended in silence. An unbearable pain. He woke from his coma with his face shattered. Doctors later said it was a miracle he lived. The explosive bullet that struck him had torn through his jaw, cheek, and upper lip. Bone fragments were embedded deep inside his face. He could not speak. He could barely breathe. Eating was impossible. Infection threatened constantly. For weeks, Finland believed its greatest sniper was dead. News of his survival spread slowly. When word finally reached the public, Simo was already undergoing surgery after surgery. His face would never be the same. He would carry scars for the rest of his life, scars that reminded him every day of the forest, the cold, and the men who never came back. Yet even in recovery, he did not complain. While Simo lay in a hospital bed, military officials finalized the records of his service. The numbers stunned even experienced officers. During the Winter War alone, Simo Häyhä was credited with over 500 confirmed sniper kills, the highest number ever recorded by a single sniper in any major war. Some estimates place the true number even higher when including submachine gun engagements. He achieved this in less than 4 months. No advanced optics, no spotter, no modern camouflage technology, just a rifle, snow, and patience. The Finnish government promoted him from corporal directly to second lieutenant. A rare honor, especially for a man who never sought recognition. Newspapers wanted interviews. Politicians wanted photographs. Military historians wanted explanations. Simo wanted none of it. When asked how he became such a lethal sniper, he gave the same answer every time. Practice. No speeches. No dramatic stories. No pride. After months of recovery, Simo returned to civilian life. The war had taken his youth, but not his discipline. He moved away from the spotlight, choosing a quiet life in the Finnish countryside. He raised dogs, hunted moose, and lived alone for long stretches of time. He never married. He never wrote memoirs. He never glorified war. Those who visited him later in life described him as polite, reserved, and almost uncomfortable when praised. His fame never interested him. Tu Simo Häyhä. Yai survival itself was enough. But the legend did not fade. Military academies around the world studied his tactics. Sniper training programs analyzed his techniques, his use of iron sights, his mastery of camouflage, his understanding of terrain, and his psychological impact on the enemy. Modern snipers still learn lessons from a man who fought with nothing but instinct and discipline. Even the Soviet Union, decades later, quietly acknowledged the terror he caused. One Soviet officer reportedly said, "It felt like death itself was hiding in the snow." Simo rarely spoke about killing, but once, late in his life, a journalist asked him a question no one had dared to ask before. "How do you feel about the men you killed?" Simo paused for a long time. Then he answered calmly, "They came to my country. I defended it." There was no anger in his voice, only acceptance. As the years passed, his injuries worsened. His jaw never fully healed. Speaking remained difficult. Eating was painful, but he lived longer than almost any man who had faced such violence. Simo Häyhä died in 2002 at the age of 96. He did not die on a battlefield. He did not die famous or wealthy. He died quietly, as he had lived. Today, his legacy remains unmatched. In a world of drones, satellites, and thermal imaging, the most effective sniper in history was a silent farmer who understood snow better than technology ever could. The White Death was not a monster. He was not driven by hatred. He was a man shaped by his land, his duty, and a winter that showed no mercy. And perhaps that is what makes his story so terrifying. Because Simo Häyhä proved that the deadliest weapon in war is not always a machine. Sometimes it is a patient man, lying perfectly still, waiting in the snow,